Black women, when was the last time that you did something and allowed it to be enough? And I don't mean good enough, and I don't mean it was depending on the circumstances. I mean it was enough. So many of us are running a race with no finish line. We achieve something, and instead of resting in, honoring, and celebrating that, we immediately scan for what we could have done better, or what we missed, what someone else might think, or our next objective. I earned a master's degree in 2006. I didn't actually physically see my master's degree until I was moving in 2011. Now, I had it all 5 of those years, but I didn't even take it out of the mailer until 2011. And by 2011, I was already in a doctorate program. On to the next thing. What can I do better? What else can I achieve? It's like we're allergic to our own accomplishments. And we have been taught to call that drive. But I want to offer you something different today. I want to suggest that what many of us have been calling drive or high standards or excellence is actually perfectionism. And perfectionism is a wound. Now, hello all. If you're new to me, my name is Dr. Sherelle MacArthur, otherwise and better known as Dr. Mac. I am a professor, an educational researcher, a wellness and life coach to Black women, an author, a speaker, a mommy, and just like you, I am unlearning and learning, becoming every day. And I want to tell you really quick about a client that I have. We'll call her Maya. Now, Maya is the kind of person that you call when you need, you want it to look a particular way, you want something done a particular way, you want it done right. This is who you call, right? And at work, she's going to make sure she triple checks every report before she sends it in. She has coworkers that come to her to look over their stuff before she submits it in, right? In relationships, whether platonic, romantic, or familial, she manages everyone else's emotions. And most of those people, those who love her, never really get to see her with her mask off. And so from the outside, Maya looks like she has it all together. And from the inside, and I know this because I work with her as her coach, she is exhausted. It is a fatigue, right? When you experience fatigue, sleep can't fix that. Now, in a recent session together, she shared that she had just turned in a project at work, and her supervisor said, "Hey, Maya, this is great. Maya, this is great." And when she came to me, she said that the question that was dominating her thoughts was, what did I miss? I think that was her aha moment, because she didn't have relief that the project that she had been working on for weeks was completed. She didn't feel pride that she got that attaboy from her supervisor. She felt suspicion. Oh my God, what did I miss? Did I do this? Did I do that? Right? She's already checked, double checked, and triple checked this thing. But perfectionism has trained her to believe that if something feels complete, she must have overlooked something. That rest is a setup for failure, right? That being seen as capable meant that she could not afford to be caught being human. She could not be caught slipping. And I get that as a woman and as a Black woman. And so I know that Maya's story is not unusual. In fact, I guess that some version of that lives in the many of you who are watching this right now. So let's talk about what perfectionism actually is and why it shows up so powerfully in the lives of Black women. And that's because many of us have been taught that perfectionism is the goal, that being flawless makes us worthy of love, of success, of belonging. But perfectionism is a trap, and it's a myth that was never meant to serve us. It keeps us stuck in our own cycles of self-doubt, of overworking, of procrastination, and never feeling good enough. Sis, who's listening to this, have you ever believed that you were doing all you could do and still didn't feel like you were good enough? Perfectionism is not about having high standards. It's a moving target that never lets you rest. It whispers that no matter how much you achieve, you could have done better, that you could have done more, that there's more to do. Like me never seeing that master's degree Because here I go on to the next thing. It convinces you that your self-worth is tied to how flawless you appear, whether in your work, in your relationships, and even in your healing. It's the voice that says, if I'm not excelling, then I am failing. And so you push and you push and you push and you push yourself beyond your limits, and you check and you double check and you triple check everything, and you criticize yourself for the smallest mistakes. And I get that. Because as women, as Black women, we live in communities and in a society that is constantly and consistently critiquing us and has never let up off the gas of that critique. And so it makes sense then to have internalized said criticisms of now ourselves. And so our perfectionism is often rooted in something more than personal insecurity. It's rooted in our own survival, and it's rooted in our own indoctrination of what we are receiving from families, communities, and a society that tell us that Black women in general are not enough. We've been conditioned to believe by those spaces, right? Family, community, society, that we have to be twice as good just to be seen. And we know that this becomes complicated with a number of factors, right? Where you're from, colorism plays a role, the color of your skin, all of those things. If you're married or not, if you are a mother or not, if you're married to the father of your children or not, right? All of those things begins to complicate things, right? And then there's no room for error in our journeys as Black women. That an average day work for us is not enough to justify our presence in rooms that we had to fight to enter. Rooms at work and rooms at home. That we've got to, now that we've gotten the love, we've got to a fight to keep said love. And I did a video recently on struggle love. If you haven't seen it, go check that one out, okay? And so we overcompensate. We silence our own exhaustion. We suppress our emotions, and we strive for unattainable levels of excellence, because anything less feels like failure. Not just personal failure, but a confirmation of every lie that has ever been told about us. Now, researchers call that a racialized perfectionism. It's the internalization of white supremacist standards of productivity and presentation, layered on top of the very human fear of just not being enough in general. And it's perfectionism with historical roots. Racialized perfectionism is a perfectionism with historical roots, with generational weight. And it's not something that you can simply think your way out of, because perfectionism is not a standard. It's a trap. It's a box. It cages us in, and it keeps us working endlessly for validation. That's just never going to feel like enough. And worse, it robs you of the ability to embrace your own humanity. And when I say it robs you of your ability to embrace your own humanity, what I'm saying is that to err is to be human. Nobody is perfect. Nobody is perfect. And so we have to be willing to give ourselves the grace to be imperfect and still worthy. Now, grace is the softness we give ourselves in a world that demands that we be hard. Whew. We're going to unpack this strong Black woman, okay? We don't have to unpack it. But we've got to be willing to give ourselves the grace to be soft. When we are functionally depressed, we may feel like we're constantly failing ourselves, struggling in silence while keeping up appearances. How many of you have ever struggled in silence at home, behind closed doors, but when you were out, nobody knew? You were wearing a mask, and you had grown almost perfect at wearing that mask, putting it on when you were walking out the door and taking it off when you got into your home, right? Now, we might judge ourselves for feeling like I should be stronger. I should be grateful for what I have. Why am I complaining? Other people have it worse. I should be able to handle this. But grace interrupts all those limited thoughts, that limited thinking, those limited beliefs about ourselves and our worthiness and our value and our abilities and our capabilities. It interrupts that cycle. Grace says that you are allowed to struggle. You are allowed to be human. Grace is a self forgiveness when you realize you have been carrying too much for far too long. It's recognizing that you were never meant to do it all alone. And sometimes, and maybe I'll come back and talk about this at other times, sometimes when we think about not wanting to do life alone, and yes, we do deserve love. We do deserve love outside of ourselves. We do deserve more than a self love. We do deserve more than familial and platonic love. We do deserve romantic love. And still, when you think about and consider your life and who you're doing life with, consider that it doesn't only have to be a romantic partner. I have a best friend that has been married now for 21 years. And it may have been last year she was going through some things. We were talking through some things together. And, it was a season of her life. And she's happily married, mind you. 2 children, 2 wonderful children. And, and I'm friend coaching her. And she said to me, "Friend, I am so happy that I get to do life with you." And I had never heard someone say that outside of a romantic relationship. And when I thought about it and sat with it, yeah, I am honored. It is a pleasure to get to do life with my best friend. So, yes, having a romantic partner is a beautiful thing, but they are not the only ones that we do life with. I am honored. It is a pleasure as a single mother to co-parent with my parents, for my son to have a bevy of aunties around him, uncles, cousins that love him, to be to have a community and a village around him that support him and show up for everything. I get to do life with those people. Okay. So giving yourself grace in knowing that you were never supposed to carry all your weight alone. You were never supposed to do it all alone. And that's okay. You don't have to pick up everything, hold everybody on your back while you're breaking down. Even if you weren't breaking down, sis, put some of that down. Put some of that down. We've got to learn if we want to divorce ourselves from a strong Black woman, we've got to be willing to put some of this ish down. And then when we finally see how hard we have walked this path, how hard we've been on ourselves, how hard we've pushed ourselves through exhaustion and depression and anxieties and ignored our needs and silenced our own cries for help, grace is there. And grace is what tells you you do not have to earn rest. Grace is what tells you you do not have to prove your worth through struggle. Grace is what tells you that you are still enough even when you don't feel strong. Self-forgiveness through grace means releasing yourself from unrealistic expectations. It's choosing gentleness over guilt when you fall short. It's waking up and saying, "I'm doing the best, and that's enough. I am doing the best I can, and that's enough." Grace allows you to take breaks. Grace allows you to say no without guilt and to trust your worth is not tied to your productivity. Honestly, grace offers liberation from the exhaustion of operating as the strong Black woman, of operating as hyper independent, at being hyper vigilant, and by being a perfectionist, by teaching us that rest is not only okay, but necessary for our own well being. And in embracing grace, sis, you give yourself permission to rest, restore, recharge yourself and your energies without feeling like you are failing or letting others down. What they gonna do at the job if I use my PTO? They gonna work and you gonna rest. What they gonna do at the house if I, go on a staycation? They gonna play, they gonna eat, they gonna clean up, they'll figure it out. What is the family gonna do if I don't play? People manage, people know how to manage. People know how to lean on who they lean on. And they know if you aren't there to lean on, they will manage. So what then does it mean for you to take your hands off some things? What does it look like for you? What does it mean for you to let your work be good, but not flawless? To let your relationships be good, but not flawless? To let them be real and not curated? To let your healing be messy, but still count? The last 3 months were great. The last couple weeks, you've had a hiccup. As is life, it ebbs and flows. So I want to leave some space here, not for me to talk, but for you to sit with yourself. As a wellness and life coach, I do give love work, which is homework rooted in love. So if you have a journal, go ahead and grab one. If you're listening to me, wherever you're listening to me, then go ahead and look at the timestamp so you can come back to this part of the video and jot these questions down later. Question number 1. Where in your life have you been holding yourself to a standard that no one else set for you? Where in your life have you been holding yourself to a standard that no one else set for you? Question 2. When you make a mistake, what is the first thing you say to yourself? And would you say that thing to someone that you love? Question 3. What have you been waiting to feel proud of once it's perfect? And what would it cost you to feel proud of it right now in its imperfection? Question 4. What would you do, try, create, or say if you knew you were allowed to do it imperfectly? Is there a book that you've been wanting to write? Is there a hobby that you've been wanting to start? Is there a relationship that you've been wanting to end? Sometimes we're trying to do life perfectly, and that's hurting us too. And then finally, question 5. What would it feel like to be enough today as you are with what you have done? I want you to sit with those. I want you to know that there is no right answer. The questions themselves are the work. And then I want you to walk away from this video, this conversation, this community space with the knowing that perfectionism was not born in you. It was placed on you by systems that needed you to perform in order to belong, by spaces that only made room for your excellence, but not your humanity, by a world that has not always been safe for Black women to simply just be. But you are allowed to reclaim yourself from that. You are allowed to do good work and rest. You are allowed to show up and still have limits. You are allowed to heal in public and not have it all figured out. Let me tell you something. One time when I was going through it, okay, I was a new mom, a new single mom. I have no money. We still needed to eat. I was in my doc program. I was struggling with questions of self-worth and can I do this and how am I supposed to figure this out? And now I have this little person dependent on me and what am I going to do? And I was walking through Kroger, bawling my eyes out. I mean, fully grocery shopping with my food stamps, bawling my eyes out, still looking at reading, the backs of things and putting it in my cart. And I remember this woman walked up to me and she placed her arm on me and she said, "Baby, are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I just got to get it out." She didn't say anything. She just nodded like she could understand. And I continued to cry and grocery shop. Okay. You are allowed to heal in public and not have it all figured out. You are allowed when someone says, "How are you doing?" not to say okay, or "I'm fine," or "I'm well," and to tell the truth. Today I'm tired. Today I'm worried. Today I'm a little frustrated, Right now I'm a little irritable. It's okay to be whole and complex and a beautifully imperfect human being and still be worthy of every room that you walk in. That's not lowering the bar. That is liberating yourself from a bar that was designed to keep you running on a hamster wheel with no end in sight. Now, if this resonated with you, I want to hear from you. I don't want to talk into a void. Drop a comment below and tell me, where does perfectionism show up most in your life? Your answer may be exactly what someone else needed to hear. And if you're ready to go deeper, subscribe to the channel, because every week we are doing this work, this healing work, this unlearning work, this relearning work together. Healing out loud and becoming together.